In News9 Mediaverse. I'm Kartikeya Sharma. With me is our legal editor Ashok Bagaria, and you are watching our special coverage on Manipur violence. Manipur violence issue will be taken up by the Supreme Court. A Supreme Court bench headed by the Chief Justice of India, D.Y. Chandrachud, is hearing the plea of the two women who were seen in the Manipur sexual violence video after they approached the apex court. Bench comprising Justice J.P. Pardiwala and Justice Manoj Mishra is hearing a fresh petition related to the viral video case. The Supreme Court will also hear the central government's plea to transfer the trial of the cases outside the state. Supreme Court has taken suo motu cognizance of the matter on July 20th. The court had asked the state government and sent it to take immediate steps in the matter and appraise it on what action that has been taken. Meanwhile, Manipur government has assumed the task of biometric capture of all illegal Myanmar immigrants in the state. This follows the Ministry of Home Affairs instructions to complete the campaign for biometric capture by September 2023. A lot of other things have happened. For example, huge rallies on weekend took place in Imphal. Huge rally took place in Aizawl. There was an all-party delegation which went to the Manipur. They met number of refugees, they met the governor. But before that, I would like to know from you, and you know, these are the on our screen you can watch, these are the people who had spoken. These are the people who had spoken. They are trying to say that the violence in Manipur must come to an end. That's what they're trying to say. Footballer Konsum skips international tournaments amid conflict. You have the case in Supreme Court. You have people who are expressing outrage. Meitei groups to stage a sit-in protest in Delhi on August 6. So it's not as if the things are coming to a calm. There is a new calm in, I would say, Manipur. You know, people have separated. They have gone the different ways. Opposition MPs are saying that the condition of relief and camps are pathetic. And let me tell you, our coverage of Manipur is based on facts. We don't run any unverified video. We do not run any unverified comments. We do not take any story which we have not verified. These are the stories which have been published in wires by our reporters or which have been covered by the proper agency. So biometric capture of Myanmar migrants begin. So Manipur has not remained a Manipur problem. Manipur has become a big problem. Manipur has become a problem of Northeast. Manipur has become an issue which is directly impacting the Parliament of India. You know, the Parliament is not functioning properly, and most important of all, you will have a no confidence motion in Parliament and the Manipur will be discussed. Ashok, tell me one thing. What happened in Supreme Court and what do you expect Supreme Court to do today?
See, Kartikeya, first of all, you'll have to understand that there are a bunch of petitions which are coming up for hearing today, raising various issues. Number one, issue relating to law and order, issue relating to relief and rehabilitation, issue relating to those two women who were paraded naked and sexually assaulted. Then there is another petition which is actually seeking protection for children and women specifically, and then there is also a whole range of issues on which the Supreme Court has taken so much.
Tell me one thing, Supreme Court karega kya? What will Supreme Court do? I really want to know, because the hope is on the court. What do you expect the court to do? A lot of people must be thinking, आज Supreme Court कुछ ऐसा करेगा, कर सकता है, कर दे, जिससे चीजें बदले. And I am using the common man's parlance. I know Supreme Court understand that there is a division of authority when it comes to governance. But in popular parlance से होता है ना कि न्याय तो Supreme Court में मिलेगा. You remember no one shot Jessica Lal? Where did justice happen? Justice happened in the Supreme Court. Where did Sabrimala go? It went to the Supreme Court of India. Where is same-sex marriage being heard? It's in the Supreme Court of India. Positive legislations, Supreme Court of India. So people have this thing कि Supreme Court कुछ ना कुछ करेगा. Just lay it down for our viewers. आज क्या बातें होंगी? What will happen in context of Manipur in Supreme Court?
Well, Kartikeya, you're bang on when you point out that the people's hope lies with the Supreme Court of India. There is a perception that when any institution or every institution in the country fails, the Supreme Court will be with the people of the country, with the people of Manipur. Now that is the expectation. But the reality is, in the courts, the judges have to deal with cold facts, hard facts. The court does not have independent power, or rather it does have, but it does not have an independent authority to send out people there and to try to figure out as to what's happening. The court, the Supreme Court judges are relying on the facts and figures which are given out by the Manipur government and the central government. Now, I'll tell you, a month back there was a hearing in the Supreme Court. The central government and Manipur government assured the Supreme Court of India that all steps are being taken to ensure that law and order situation in the state is restored. They even assured the Supreme Court that people, those who have been displaced from their villages, their homes which have been burnt, they will be rehabilitated. They again reinforced or reassured the Supreme Court that all efforts are being taken from on the part of the central government to deploy paramilitary forces, and there are some areas in which even the army has been deployed. So what do you expect the court to do in a point situation like this when they are being shown the fact that this is what we are doing? However,
Court show the way.
All said and done, there are petitioners who have come to the court. Now there are cookies, there are meiteis who are both parties in the Supreme Court of India. They have been arguing against each other, and in fact I'll tell you, Kartikeya, last time around the Supreme Court of India said that, look, please keep this allegation and counter allegation that you're making against each other outside the courtroom. What we want is that calm should be restored in the state first. Once calm is restored, then you can be got on the talking table, try to work out a formula. But at the moment, the big thing is that peace has to be restored in the state. This state has been, I will say, the whole fabric of the state has been torn in the last 70 days. It's not that as if it cannot be repaired, but it will take time. The fissures, the fault lines between the two communities are running so deep that there will be a serious effort, out of the box thinking on the part of the Manipur government as well as the central government to ensure that the state, peace and calm in the state is restored. Now, one last thing, that here again today what will happen in the Supreme Court? The Supreme Court will ask the Manipur government. The Manipur government is already filing a status report. The central government is filing a status report. They are saying that these are the steps that we are taking. So much we are doing. What can we do when situations are actually spiraling out of control? Now here, what the Supreme Court will do is that, okay, they'll say that, look, we'll prioritize a few things for you. That these are the things you have to do on priority basis.
Okay.
That protect the lives of children.
These are the visuals of the governor, in the relief camp, on your right side, Ashok.
Yeah, I can see that.
Yeah, it looked better on your right side.
Yeah.
That's where.
Okay.
Before we take this conversation with Ashok further, let's play out that sound bite of the spokesperson, his plea.
ये चूराचांद डिस्ट्रिक्ट में ये दूसरा विजिट है मेरा, और मैंने पिछले बार भी कैंपों में जाकर और जो भी देखा, लोगों से मिली, उनकी जो भी तकलीफ थी, दर्द, उनका दुख था, मैंने उनकी सारी चीज़ों की बात सुनी और जो कुछ भी था मैंने कोशिश किया, इनकी जो भी मूलभूत जो वर्तमान में उनकी आवश्यकता की चीज़ें थी वो मैंने जाकर और शासन को निर्देश दिया था, और वो उसमें काफ़ी कुछ इनकी सुविधाएं इनको प्राप्त हुई है। जो दिनचर्या की चीज़ों का जो था, पहले तो केवल भोजन ही मिलता था, लेकिन साथ साथ उनके जो चाहे वो उनका कपड़े हैं, उसके साथ साथ साबुन है, सौंफ है, ब्रश है, ये तमाम जो चीज़ें थी, और ये सारी चीज़ों को भी निर्देश दिया था, हाइजीन किट से लेकर और मच्छरदानी और बेड और चादर, ये भी एक ज़रूरी था ना, कि केवल खाना ही सब कुछ नहीं था। तो ये सारी चीज़ों को सरकार, यहाँ प्रशासन धीरे धीरे कर रहा है, लेकिन कुछ चीज़ें अभी भी यहाँ आपूर्ति का अभाव है, क्योंकि यहाँ पर सामान नहीं आ रहा है, हाईवे बंद है, और वहाँ के साथ साथ कई जगह पे जाम लगा हुआ, रोक लिया, यहाँ सामान नहीं आ पा रहा है। लेकिन कोशिश कर रहे हैं कि धीरे धीरे बहुत दूर से मिजोरम की तरफ से भी सामान, मगर फिर भी अपने तरफ से मेडिसिन की बहुत तकलीफ है। मैंने स्वयं मेडिसिन लेकर आई हूँ, मैं भी हेलीकॉप्टर से भी मैंने भिजवाया है।
I was surprised, like what might have happened. So when I called back after the match got over, I got my phone. I called back, and I was really worried what happened. And then I heard my mom crying over the phone. She was saying that they were burning houses, there were gunshots, there were attacks, and which I was really worried and scared. I thought maybe I would lose all of them. I'm talking to them for the last time. I don't know how to express that feeling. It was really scary because as I said, I thought I would lose all of them, and I was speaking to them for the last time. And I told my mom, please do not hang up the call, please be on the line. Yeah, that's how it happened on the third night, and I was to fly on the fourth back to Hyderabad after we played the match. And I stayed the entire night awake and was speaking to my mom over the phone. And fortunately, they escaped. The Indian Army, they evacuated them from Chochanpur. They provided trucks, buses, and jeeps to evacuate them from there. And then that's how they went to the relief camp in Moyang. And then from there on, then I heard the news of our house being destroyed, burned, and being torched. And then after a few hours, again, the football turf that I built in the locality in Chochanpur, Tuibong, is being burned, destroyed as well. So I got this information, and it was really heartbreaking and sad because I had a big dream of, providing a platform to the youngsters coming up in Chochanpur. They were really talented, but they couldn't afford a football school. So my dream, my plan was to provide them a platform where they can become a professional player, and then they can go on and play for the national team, and then become a great player for the country and help their family as well. Because as you know now, football, once they become a professional, they can help their family and people around them, their life changes. So that was my plan, but then this incident happened and everything got destroyed and everything being robbed, taken away. Fortunately, I would say my parents, my family, everyone escaped alive, and that's, it's God's plan, I would say, that they're alive, and I'm happy about that. But everything that we ever earned and ever had is being all taken away. Now we have to again, as a family, regroup, build the strength, and then restart again. Yeah, that's pretty much what's at the moment. And what's unfortunate is we still have no clue when we can return back home. Well, there is no home. That's what I heard from a few friends that I have back there in Chochanpur. They told me that our house is being destroyed, broken down, and so is the football club as well. And so there is no place called home for me to go back. But I hope we can rebuild and restart again once the government gives us a green signal. I would say that we are safe to go there, we are safe to start a new life, because like us, there are many families who are stranded elsewhere in relief camps and many other places in Manipur who are finding it hard to survive as well. So it's getting tougher each day. So I hope the solution is there. The concerned people who are to look after us and to protect us and to give us the shelter and for us to build our future on, to decide. And so we can't plan anything at the moment, and it's really sad to see my family suffering. That's one of the reasons I couldn't go play for the national team.
I'm also joined by Dr. Thangzakup Tombing, Assistant Professor, National Law University and Judicial Academy from Guwahati, Assam, and I'm also joined by Lieutenant Colonel retired L. Manokba, former officer, Indian Army and General Secretary of the Armed Forces Ex-Servicemen Association, Manipur. तो सबसे पहले कर्नल साहब मैं आपके पास आऊंगा. The first question I have for you is, one thing is criminal justice system, which has kicked into action in the Supreme Court. They will look into the cases where the violence took place. But the another issue is of that of massive displacement of people. Are we witnessing something which happened long time back in Mizoram in post 68, 69, when the action was taken against then Lal Denga, when there was concerted attack on Aizawl and other places? Is there something like that happening? Then Indian Army combed out the militants?
Yes, say again.
I'm saying that there's a massive displacement of population which is taking place. It's as if we don't learn from our history.
Yeah, the displacement of people have taken place, unfortunately. Now, this is not a natural, process of displacement on their own will or the thing. It's because of the fallout of the unfortunate violence that has taken place. And now, you can't equate it with what has happened in Mizoram or elsewhere. Uh, this unfortunately has happened, and it is this is was.
Hearing शुरू हो
I'm
गई.
sure that it was avoidable if the peace process was continued, and then hopefully it will come back to the people will have to go back to their own places if possible, and if not, then what is the way ahead that we have to think of as far as the displacement is concerned.
That's a very interesting point of view. Mr. Tomming, your first comment on the biometrics which is taking place. A lot of things are all over the place right now. You have people in camps, you have matter in Supreme Court, you have no debate in Parliament. It seems that a clear pathway is absent.
Yeah, thank you for the invitation. The pathway how to achieve this, this is actually a very big concern and issue right now, because things have got stagnated, and in fact, since an idea of peace cannot be deliberated and discussed yet, and to comment on any kind of a liability without coming up with a certain kind of a special investigation report, or maybe a CBI report. In fact, because everybody is traumatized right now, and like Lieutenant Colonel Manongba, and also the other aspect that you have discussed, people are now displaced, and they have been forced out of their land, out of their home. And we now know that when a person is displaced, she ends up being very helpless. And this has an impact on how life has to be resumed. And without peace, you cannot resume, but then there is no pathway also, right, at the given juncture. Thank you.
Juncture, but what needs to be done? I think, wouldn't you agree that there has to be sort of a peace and reconciliation commission? Mr. Tombin?
I think we do need that, but then in one way, when we have ended up demonizing a certain section of society, and where the power play of state, it is not balanced, and therefore anybody who speaks for the community and being on the receiving end of the state, and certain community leaders, be it an academician or be it an CSO leaders, when they have cases against them, which may be founded or unfounded, it doesn't create any kind of confidence building measures at the moment. So what it is leading to is that there is a great divide which is getting cemented and concretized over a period of time, and it is almost 90 days now, and in the heart and mind and soul of everybody, this divide is eating into their soul now. So how do you heal an injured soul? How do you heal a demonized soul? How do you heal a traumatized soul? Then before you heal that, can you create or talk about an idea of confidence building measure? This is $1 million question at the moment.
Okay, but Colonel Saab, tell me, apart from the fact that there is a deep divide, there is also great exasperation on part of a lot of people who see money from far away, that instead of normalcy being reduced, Manipur has turned out into a place where two populations have completely segregated themselves.
Article, I will put it this way. The separation and the segregation has taken place due to unfortunate events of 3rd May and further thereafter. You're right that people who are connected to Manipur and overall the India and the Northeast the people who are associated, connected, or who are part of the whole, the place, feel very pain to hear all this and then experience this. Now, why this has happened, what should not have happened, but I'm sure that once the peace process or the reconciliation, whatever happens, whatever takes place, the state and the people will have to find ways and means to get into a reconciliatory mode, and like good old saying that forget and forgive. However, should there are the entire population, I'll say that the entire population, that is 15-16 lakhs of meiteis and about say 3-4 lakhs of kuki community brothers, all of them are not segregated. I want to emphasize on this that all of them are not segregated, all of them are not different. Fortunately, because wherever the possible, there are people who are talking, who are interacting with each other, and there are, we cannot say that because the clashes happened, because of the fear, people have gone away to their respective places of safety. It does not mean that there is a 100% enmity between the Kupis and the Meitei. There are, elements which are inimical to the whole process. Those are the elements which are being like the Meiteis claim that there are illegal immigrants and the people who are indulging in the armed conflict or armed assault onto the Meiteis, and the Meiteis also are being blamed for certain amount of elements of the society. However, there are radically very strong people who are contesting each other. However, the entire 100% population of each other are not fully divided, not fully spent. I am certain that why we are hopeful about the returning to peace someday is there are still large sections from both the communities who are still who still feel that they have to go back to their original status, and the demand of so and so or demand of so and so is their individual demand, which can be met or not met. There is different things. What is keeping them separated and away is the present fear due to the violence that is there. That is what is keeping them segregated, and which is not good for the state and for the country to be kept segregated. They have to be reunited at the earliest in whatever possible manner. I would put it that way. Thank you.
Let's play out the bite of Anurag Thakur on this matter. Let's play out that bite first.
कुछ विपक्षी दल के सांसद मणिपुर गए। मैंने तो उस दिन भी अनुरोध किया था कि आइए, मैं भी पिछले कल बंगाल में था, वहाँ पे महिलाओं के साथ अत्याचार कैसे हुआ, अपराध की घटनाएं कैसे बढ़ी। लेकिन शायद ये विपक्षी दल बंगाल की महिलाओं में, राजस्थान की महिलाओं में, बिहार की महिलाओं में और मणिपुर की महिलाओं में भी भेदभाव कर रहे हैं, उनके अधिकारों में भी भेदभाव कर रहे हैं। हमने चर्चा के लिए तो पहले दिन से ही कहा था कि मणिपुर पर चर्चा ही हो जाए। आखिरकार विपक्ष चर्चा से क्यों भाग रहा है? और 2 हफ्तों में एक दिन भी वो चर्चा के लिए नहीं आए, और अभी भी अगर वो मणिपुर गए हैं तो वापस आकर क्या वो कल चर्चा में भाग लेंगे? मेरा एक बार फिर उनसे हाथ जोड़कर निवेदन है कि विपक्षी दल चर्चा में भाग लें, अपनी बात वो भी कहें और ये भी सुने कि जब विपक्ष में, अब तो वो विपक्ष में है, लेकिन जब वो सत्ता में थे, कांग्रेस की सरकार थी, तब कई महीनों तक मणिपुर जलता था, मणिपुर बंद रहता था। मणिपुर में उस समय पेट्रोल की कीमतें 5-5 गुना ज़्यादा होती थी, मिलता नहीं था पेट्रोल डीजल, रसोई गैस के सिलेंडर नहीं मिलते थे, अनाज की कमी आती थी। ना तब उस समय के प्रधानमंत्री गए, ना उस समय के गृह मंत्री गए, ना उन्होंने कभी संसद में कभी बयान दिया।
So that was Anurag Thakur, and these are the visuals of the all-party meeting which took place in Manipur. So you had a lot of leaders who had gone, met Mr. Uike. All these leaders had met every person who mattered. It was an all-party delegation which went to Manipur in the weekend. Our reporters are also there. They brought on the ground reports. But I think what is really concerning is that in Manipur, somehow the approach is that this is going to take long time. Mr. Tombing, isn't that the feeling that this, like other sort of insurgencies, other civil unrest like Mizo unrest, Naga unrest or Bodo unrest, it's like ye waqt lega, this will take time, this is the sense I'm getting. But is this the correct political approach?
I would humbly like to submit that the MNF movement and then the NSCN movements, they have been for secessionist movement. So it was a protracted insurgency movement. This is an ethnic clash, and then the clashes have continued.
I'm very happy, Mr. Tombing, you actually made that distinction. The reason why I used it as an example was that ultimately people were internally dislocated. For example, the Brew dislocation, or for example, the campaign which the army took, the marking out of the villages. These are historical texts written. They were inspired from the Malay campaign under colonization. So those tactics were deployed in Northeast also. My limited point was internal displacement of people.
Yeah,
I understand the difference. You are right. No arguments there.
Yeah, this internal displacement has brought forth certain understanding, because when we say internally displaced, and then when also we say asylum seeker, the similarity, there are certain features which are similar. For an internally displaced person also, and for a refugee seeker as well, what has politically happened and communally and community ethnically that has happened is, you have to leave your home and then your state or maybe your district, because you need to save your life. And everybody longed for their home, for their district, and whatever they call is their homeland. And the disturbing problem is that the internally displaced people, they now fear of their life. And this is happening even though they are citizens of India and they very much domicile of a certain district or certain place of a certain state. And the frustration and then the big letdown is, I am a citizen of India, but I cannot go back to my home state. I cannot start my normal life, and I cannot continue education of my children. How depressing is this? And unless and until a certain accountability is fixed at the earliest and peace is not achieved, this protracted ethnic clashes is going to continue. And there is now an established buffer zone at the foothills, where every night or during daytime or early morning, there would be sporadic incidents of gun firings. And these are not simple gun firings, and they are very serious in its nature and its core and its manifestations. Now, the big question now is, how do we stop this worrying militarized village volunteers from stopping the sporadic violences? How do you stop that?
Colonel Saab, how do you stop that? Because the weapons which have been looted have not come back. The bullets have not come back.
I have a suggestion in this matter of weapon. Now the first thing is, the loose and unaccounted weapons in the hands of either side. I say either side, both in the kuki side as well as those allegedly looted weapons, or in the meitei side. Both have to be, we'll have to disarm all the weapons, collect all the weapons, and then make accountability for all the weapons in the loose hands. Now that is the first thing. How it is to be done? There are experts in the army domain or security forces domain how it can be done. I will give an example of, say, we had, I mean, in a different scenario, there was a communist party movement in Nepal, the CPI movement led by Shri Prachanda Singh, and then there was a heavy movement, weaponized Gurkhas there. They were the first thing when the UN peacekeeping forces came in and the UN intervention came in. The first thing they did was to disarm, get these people to collect those weapons and then put them in a safe place of confidence. Similarly, in this place where the weapons are there, I have been hearing this from the 4th of May that so many weapons have been looted, so many weapons have been
Okay.
returned or recovered. Now we have not spoken about anything about the weapons in the other side of the party. Yes, the weapons have been looted in the valley area. Let's say that they have been looted. Their accountability has to be taken by the state government. Similarly, if there are weapons being used by the kuki so-called village defense forces, they are definitely not 12 bore and single bore licensed guns. Because of all the video recordings and whatever is coming in the social media, the guns that are being fired are automatic weapons which can be made up by even a simple ordinary person. Now those weapons which are being, the people are saying that whatever the weapons were there in.
May I stop you, Colonel Saab, may I stop you? Something very important has happened in the court, and we'll play out the graphics. A very important statement has come. One of the petitioners have said, कि SIT गठित होनी चाहिए, SIT होना चाहिए, and Supreme Court said that in present situation हम अनुच्छेद 32 के तहत दायर याचिका स्वीकार नहीं कर सकते. So the Supreme Court is saying that they cannot accept petition under the para 32, which is the provision 32. Supreme Court also said something very important. Our reporters are saying that Meitei समुदाय के एक संगठन की याचिका में कहना है, a Meitei community which petitioned the court apart from the cookies, they are saying that this violence is happening because of narco-terrorism. And the Supreme Court, the Chief Justice of India have said, you cannot make one ethnicity, you can't treat them like terrorists. And the Chief Justice of India said, please get us facts. Supreme Court ने याचिका को सुनने से मना कर दिया, which means that Supreme Court is saying that baseless charges should not be made. A very important. This petition will amount to branding a particular segment of population as terrorists. We cannot do this. SC refuses to entertain a PIL in Manipur matter that sought a probe in the issue of narco terrorism, deforestation, poppy cultivation, transnational migration and blockage of highways. Mr. Tombing, your comment. A very important development in the Supreme Court of India. A very important development has taken place. Your comments, Mr. Tombing.
Yes, I applaud this comment of the Supreme Court, and this has in one way vindicated many of the narratives and arguments that have been put forth by the Zou community intellectuals and spokesperson. Because the parallel that I want to draw is, now we have internally displaced people from both the communities. If you say there is a refugee seekers because of the Myanmar junta related problem, and if you personalize them, you can see that they are merely poor people who have been drawn out of their home. They want some shelter, they want food, they want education for their children. Now, for the internally displaced people who happen to be Kuki Zou communities also, it's the same experience. And when we have created a narrative that they could be narco-terrorists, we are making helpless people being demonized. And the outcome is there is a top-down radicalization of the commoners.
And we also have those visuals. Mr. Tombing, we have those visuals. I would like them to play the visuals of the border. Please play out the visuals of the border, which our reporters have got. Let us play out these visuals, Let us play these visuals out. Mr. Tombing, you complete your argument, then I'm going to go to the Colonel Saab on this. Very important thing.
Because
can you put Mr. Tombing on screen, Shalini, with Mr. With the visuals? Yes, please go ahead.
Because my understanding is they are helpless people. They just want shelter. And in the top-down level, when you have radicalized these asylum seekers, right, and when you collate it with our internally displaced people, you get to know that how helpless they are. And when you have successfully radicalized a certain section of society, what did you get? You get ethnic clashes. And what is the outcome of that? Whatever progress Manipur state has made in 2 decades has been in shambles. And this is not helping anyone. When it comes to insurgency movement, we know that this is for political aspiration and self-determination. But this demonization and then the narrative that has created, it's going to scar the memories of young people, as young as 5, up to young adults and even middle-aged people also. Uh, and that has, in fact, eaten away and destroyed the fabric of this beautiful state of Manipur. How do you fold it back? How do you make a U-turn? But then in this 90 days of whatever has happened, these feelings are getting concretized and cemented. Is it worth it that you created an idea of a narco-terrorist to a certain asylum seeker and thereby making a blanket statement that everybody is like that? Thank you, sir.
Okay, Colonel Saab, very important CGI obita dicta. This is an obita dicta, sir. This is not an order. I must clarify to our viewers that this is an obita dicta. This is an obita dicta. This is not an order. He refused the petition. So I must be very clear. Obita dicta. And this is the oral observation recorded in the court and reported by the press. Colonel Saab.
Sorry, I couldn't get the one exactly the court is.
Sir, okay, I'll read it out for you, sir. Supreme Court refuses to entertain a PIL in Manipur matter that sought a probe in the issue of deforestation, poppy cultivation, transnational migration, blockage of highway and narco-terrorism. CJI says the petition will amount to branding a particular segment of population as terrorist. We cannot do so.
Okay, got it. Now, as far as the Supreme Court is concerned, or what is the whatever verdict it has given, it is to the wisdom and the capability of the Supreme Court, which I cannot refute in any case. However, what I interpret from this is they are saying that this cannot be dealt in the. If there is a case of narco-terrorism then or illegal immigration, it has to be sorted out at the government level. It cannot be, debated or argued in the court of law. So the due process of the law, as per the rules that are applicable and are available to the powers and the tools available with the government, state and the center, there are narcotics control bureaus, there are other authorities. Immigrations can be checked. If there are immigrations, then it has to be checked. And if there are narco-terrorism or narcotics are being peddled in, it can be checked. It should be checked. And those are the things which we have to deal with at the ground level. Maybe the Supreme Court is right in his statement saying that you deal this at the government level. That is what I read it, but it has not said that it is not there. Nor do I say that it is there, but then we need to, there is a considerable amount of activities hinting to these 2-3 things. One is the narcotics peddling. The second is the weapons, gun running, excessive amount of weapons coming in. And the third thing is the militancy of the armed rebels, whichever background, they are interfering in the internal matter this side. There are enough adequate hints of that, including a statement by the Chief of Army, ex-Chief of Army Staff General Naravne 2 days back, where there are hints that the Chinese hand cannot be just ignored. That is what I have also been insisting. So the Supreme Court ruling says we will not deal with it, but what I understand is that they have not said no, it is not there. It may be there, so we have to deal with it at the government level, at the state level, and the citizens level. The citizens themselves have to be aware, have to be concerned that these will someday eat into their own society, both the Kukis, Nagas, and Meitei. So we as citizens, we have already faced the menace of drugs maximum number of families in both in Churachandpur or Kukis and as well as the Meiteis have gone through the pains and pangs of drug addiction and death in the family. I have faced it myself. We have had our own close and kith and kin dying because of drugs, and the drugs are coming in from somewhere. It is not being sent by hovercraft. I mean, it is not being sent by drones from across. It is being brought by people from across the border, and we all know it. I've served in this Indo-Myanmar border from the back on the border. I know the terrorism, the narcotics that has been there. Narcotics being associated with terrorism or militancy.
So you are saying you are saying, sir, that present problem stems from narco terrorism.
What I am saying is there is narcotics peddling from across the border. I am very dead sure about it. Which a lot of people, it is evident by the number of people methamphetamine WI tablets been caught earlier, as well as from the times of 1980s when I was posted in the border areas. We used to apprehend those heroin powder those days. Now it is methamphetamine. Now these drugs are there continuously. The Golden Triangle, which we visualize in the Kachin Chan triangle, that area, Thailand border. Now, probably to my mind, the base has shifted closer home towards Indo-Myanmar border, which is a great possibility, and it is much easier for them to push it aside. Changing it across to Thailand or Rangoon to the port is much difficult, then much easier to decide. Hence, narcotics peddling is there. Who is doing it? That is a different thing. And the second thing is terrorism. By all means, this area is a very fertile land for the terrorism and the insurgency, which gets mixed up and then becomes a very potent cocktail, which is being used by them.
Okay. Now, sir, let me just play out what the PIL has said once for our viewers, and then we are going to play out some more bites. What the Supreme Court observation on that PIL is. Can I have that on the graphic here? Can we play this out? What the Supreme Court said on the PIL? Let's play out. Manipur case in Supreme Court, SC refuses to entertain a PIL that sought a probe in the issue of narco deforestation. Basically, this stems from the fact that you have narco terrorism, deforestation, poppy cultivation, and it links up that with the social unrest which is happening. The PIL sought a probe in the poppy cultivation, transnational migration, blockage of highway. But CGI says this petition will amount to branding a particular segment of population as a terrorist. A very important statement made by the Chief Justice of India. Very important statement, because Chief Justice of India is actually saying that you cannot brand a community as a terrorist, and that what we have been saying, let us not other each other. Just because Meiteis are in majority doesn't mean that they are doing majoritarian politics. Just because Kukis are living on the border doesn't mean that they are narco-terrorists. This othering by both sides needs to end. Now, before I go back to my esteemed panel, let us play out the bite of the market vendors, those people whom we hear but we don't get to see. Let's play out those bites first.
खराब हाल है, देखो खाने पीने का पीसेस का वो दाम बहुत बढ़िया होता है, रहने का वो तो रहने का मकान सब आज चलाता है। सी होने से भी हम लोग तो उस लोग का भी थोड़ा मदद करके ऐसा ही रहता है। ऐसा इतना हाल होने से भी हम लोग शांति के लिए हम लोग जल्द से जल्द शांति चाहिए, शांति करने के लिए कोशिश करो, सरकार को डिमांड करके रहता है।
को बहुत खराब हो गया है, क्योंकि बच्चा भी स्कूल नहीं पढ़ता, तुम फ्यूचर के बच्चा के अभी तो फेल हो गया, इसलिए तो नरेंद्र मोदी जी ने अभी तो मणिपुर शांति चाहिए और थोड़ा देखने के लिए ना अभी Manipur प्रजा को बचाओ।
We all the women community strongly condemn the act of that naked protest and all kinds of atrocities that has been committed to women. And we, the Meitei community, is a community that respected the women a lot. And whomsoever has been the culprits of those kind of activity must be punished, and we would be lending our helping hand in punishing the culprit.
राजनीति आके हम लोग को इधर में आने मत दीजिए,
हम लोग आपस में घर में बेचने के लिए करो राजनीति आके इधर में बात करके वो लोग आपस चले जाएगा। हम लोग को लिए कुछ नहीं सोचता है। वो लोग आपस में बात करके चुपचाप से रहता है। हम लोग के लिए घर में जाने के लिए कुछ नहीं सोचता है वो लोग।
जैसे कि पॉलिटिकल लोग आना अच्छा है, मतलब दैट इज गुड। एंड हम लोग चाहते हैं कि पॉलिटिकल लोग आए ना आए, पर फिर भी हम लोग को जो भी यहाँ पे जो प्रॉब्लम हो रहा है रिलीफ कैंप में रहने की वजह से, और यहाँ पे जो जितना हम लोग घर पे रहता है वैसे ही हम लोग यहाँ पे तो नहीं रह सकता, पर फिर भी यहाँ पे जितने भी हम लोग को हेल्प मिल रहा है ये सब ठीक है। पॉलिटिकल लोग है वो आए या ना आए, फिर भी हम लोग चाहते हैं कि हमारे जैसे पहली टाइप जो रहता है हमारे घर पे हमारी जगह, वहाँ पे हम लोग को जाना है, जैसे पहले रहता है वैसा ही रहना है।
So, you know, these are the visuals. These are the ground report visuals which we are getting you. You know, last 36 Sara correspondents were there. This is all from More. This is what has happened. The lives have been destroyed. These are the pictures which tell you what has happened in Manipur. I am nowhere to pass judgment, but these pictures tell a story. These pictures tell a story. When we do politics of othering, this is what happens. These pictures tell a story that if we don't trust our state institutions, this is what happens. This also tells a story that somehow politically there is a failure at the state. There is a political failure. I would say that the army is doing its job, but there is a political failure. There is a failure at the top which has manifested at the bottom, and the price has been paid by the common Meitei, common Kuki, common Naga, common Indian. I think if the political class in Manipur would have spoken more, said more, then these things would not have happened. These are the latest visuals, and most important of all party delegation went. All party delegation met people. Even the governor came out. Unprecedented governors don't come out. Our correspondent spoke to the governor of Manipur. Let's play out that tic-tac. Let's play that out.
मैम आज दौरे पर निकले हैं, क्या कहना चाहेंगे, कैसे हालात इस वक्त मणिपुर के हैं मैम?
ये चूराचांद डिस्ट्रिक्ट में ये दूसरा विजिट है मेरा, और मैंने पिछले बार भी कैंपों में जाकर और जो भी देखा, लोगों से मिली, उनकी जो भी तकलीफ थी, दर्द, उनका दुख था, मैंने उनकी सारी चीज़ों की बात सुनी, और जो कुछ भी था मैंने कोशिश किया इनकी जो भी मूलभूत जो वर्तमान में उनकी आवश्यकता की चीज़ें थी वो मैंने जाकर और शासन को निर्देश दिया था, और वो उसमें काफ़ी कुछ इनकी सुविधाएं इनको प्राप्त हुई है। जो दिनचर्या की चीज़ों का जो था, पहले तो केवल भोजन ही मिलता था, लेकिन साथ साथ उनके जो चाहे वो उनका कपड़े हैं, उसके साथ साथ साबुन है, सौंफ है, ब्रश है, ये तमाम जो चीज़ें थी, और ये सारी चीज़ों को भी निर्देश दिया था, हाइजीन किट से लेकर और मच्छरदानी और बेड और चादर, ये भी एक ज़रूरी था ना कि केवल खाना ही सब कुछ नहीं था। तो ये सारी चीज़ों को सरकार, यहाँ प्रशासन धीरे धीरे कर रहा है, लेकिन कुछ चीज़ें अभी भी यहाँ आपूर्ति का अभाव है, क्योंकि यहाँ पर सामान नहीं आ रहा है, हाईवे बंद है, और वहाँ के साथ साथ कई जगह पे जाम लगा हुआ, रोक दिया, यहाँ सामान नहीं आ पा रहा है। लेकिन कोशिश कर रहे हैं कि धीरे धीरे बहुत दूर से मिजोरम की तरफ से भी सामान, मगर फिर भी अपने तरफ से मेडिसिन की बहुत तकलीफ है। मैंने स्वयं मेडिसिन लेकर आई हूँ, मैं भी हेलीकॉप्टर से भी मैंने भिजवाया है। मुझे ऐसा लगता है कि जो भी राजनीतिक देश के अंदर जितने भी दल हैं, मैं उनसे भी ये अपील करना चाहती हूँ कि वर्तमान में जो हमारे मणिपुर प्रदेश में जो सिचुएशन है, जिस तरह का वायलेंस हुआ है, हजारों की संख्या में लोग कैंपों में रह रहे हैं, अगर वो आकर उनके दर्दों को बांट सके तो बहुत अच्छी बात है। और मैं चाहूँगी कि चाहे प्रदेश सरकार हो या केंद्र सरकार और पूरे राजनीतिक दल एक साथ मिलकर अगर इस प्रदेश में शांति लाने की पहल करें तो मैं उन्हें बहुत धन्यवाद और उनकी आभारी रहूंगी।
आखिरी सवाल, इलीगल माइग्रेंट क्या एक बड़ा वो मानती हैं फैक्टर है यहाँ पर इस पूरी हिंसा के पीछे?
देखिए, ये तमाम सारी चीज़ें, इस मामले में मैं कुछ नहीं कहूँगी, क्योंकि ये जो भी कुछ हो रहा है इन तमाम सारी चीज़ों के लिए एक जांच कमेटी बनाई गई है कि इसके पीछे क्या तथ्य है.
I am also joined by Mr. Suhas Chakma. Very warm welcome to you. How are you, sir?
Fine. Good morning. Thank you.
Suhas, we were having this conversation on the weekend. I'll start with that because Colonel Saab is there, Lieutenant Colonel retired ML Manokbaji is there, Dr. Thangza Khup Tombing is also there. Suhas, Supreme Court has refused a petition on the ground saying that if we take this petition on just on narco-terrorism in context of a community and transnational migration, it will be akin to branding this community as a terrorist group. Your first comment, it's a, this is an obiter dicta, it's not an order, but it just tells you the direction of the court.
Well, I think it was an excellent comment made by the Chief Justice. I was hearing the proceedings of the court, and Chief Justice was very clear that, if you bring issues like narco-terrorism, then deforestation, basically in the current context, you are identifying one particular group to be narco-terrorists or the people who are involved in deforestation, etc. And I don't think the court could have intervened in that manner. And it's very unfortunate that when you see this kind of petitions coming up before the court, and court is forced to actually in a way recuse itself or speak in a manner which is perfectly all right for the court. But the procedures of the court is not to be abused or misused. And the court was very much right to reject the petition itself, and the number of authorities they have what to say brought in. I don't think court could have ordered, for example, involving the Ministry of Environment.
But Suhasji, I would also say, I understand that, very right of the court to say so. But there is an issue of narcotics. जैसे पंजाब में है, you would, I think Friday, the Pakistani minister himself said the drones are being used. I know the drones are not being used in Manipur, but the golden triangle exists. That issue is there. That cannot be discounted. I am not saying that everything problem which is internal to India can be attributed to the foreign hand. No, I don't buy that narrative. I am not one of those journalists. But to say that that problem does not exist is to say that is to discount something which is happening in front of us. Suhasji.
No, I don't think anybody is denying the fact that there are problems of drugs which emanate from Myanmar. Not only Golden Triangle, much before the Golden Triangle, these have been continuing. But to say that only one particular community is involved and the way the narrative has been developed is extremely unfortunate. And I was reading a story yesterday which was published by Frontier Manipur about a year and a half back, where the Chief Minister of Manipur and his political advisor, we are talking to a person who was arrested under the NDPS Act. What does that convey? So if there are investigations to be conducted, then of course, if the court interferes in every narco problem and the Supreme Court start issuing, why only Manipur? It could be Mizoram also. It could be Arunachal Pradesh also, it could be Assam also, it could be all these states. See, I think the Supreme Court had to withdraw itself, not because the issue is not serious. The issue is very much serious, and then now I think if there is a problem, the first issue for him is to go to the Narcotics Bureau of India and the Government of India and see what actions they take and what actions they do not take. And do we believe that this narco business in this country can operate without the support, complicit participation of the political class, irrespective of wherever they take place? The political class, some sections of the political class are involved, law enforcement officials are involved.
Suhasji, point taken. There are two things which are happening. One is there is a proceeding which is taking place in the Supreme Court of India. We are going to report it. Even as we speak now, the proceedings are taking place there. So we will be reporting those proceedings. Our colleagues from the court are sending pointers. I will be throwing those pointers to you, sir. You can take us through those pointers, give your sharp opinion on that. The second thing which is coming to our notice is, which I would like to revisit this again, Mr. Toming, I'll start with you, is something which happened on today's 31st, it happened on 28th and 29th morning also, and I thought it really merits a discussion. First, this was witnessed from Myra Paibis, you know, blocking of the army cavalcade. On 28th, a large number of women folk stopped buses carrying security personnel at Tengupal from entering More. Security personnel were deployed to tackle the clash that broke out on Wednesday. Then again, thousands of them disconnected and tried to block the road. How do you explain? And I'll come to you, Colonel Saab. What is this? Anyway, there is militarization of the civil community, but women being deployed at forefront and not letting the army do its job from both the sides. This is something very unique.
If I got your question correctly, that these are the Myra Paibis, the so-called Myra Paibis, the lady Imam.
Women from both the sides. Women from both the sides.
Okay.
Even the women from Kukizo community, this happened in Tegnopal district on 28th.
All right. Now, what I would comment on this is why the Myra Paibis or the women women associations have come into the forefront is now there is somehow the state governance, the state police forces, their control and the reliability of the various number of CSOs amongst both the communities. I mean, like the Kukis will not trust the Meitei CSOs, Meiteis will not trust the Kuki association. So there is a kind of a vacuum that has taken place in the governance and overall ambience that is happening existing in the society. Now, when the vacuum has taken place, who takes place? Somebody has to do the monitoring or the some kind of authority over the society activity. That is where the Myra Paibis or the Women's Association in both the sides or any side happen to step in, because the first thing, the women are very respected, and secondly, they have got a very big say in the society. So they are probably being automatically being mobilized by on their own thing, so that they fill up the vacuum of governance. I mean, I'm not saying that the entire state government has failed, but there is a lack of confidence among the public in general about that inability to stop the violence, and that is why Myra Paibis have come into the play, and they are trying to resolve it in their own way. I mean, that's my take on the Myra Paibis. I'm not blaming anybody. I would not blame anybody. They are part of our society. They are part of our families. Kuki Myra Paibis or the Kuki Association, Women's Association will be part of the family who have been hurt, who have been, they have faced the problem. Our Myra Paibis are also, they are not mostly from the general public. They are not political leadership families or this associated. They are mostly of the general public, and they feel the pangs of the whole, this episode. And they feel that there is a lack of control over I won't say lack of governance, but there is a lack of control over the entire atmosphere. That is why they want to control the violence to whatever possible means that is possible within their capacity as a group. That, I think, is the main reason why the Myra Paibis have come in, or the Women's Association from the other side has come in, and that will continue unless the violence is controlled by the government. Central government has to step in and control the government. That is why my earlier friend Sapun Santi had cried over in the media, in the public glare, that we need the strong hands of the government, the central government, to come and say, you are not behaving, you better sit down and talk. Unless that happens, the Myra Paibis and the such associations will keep filling the vacuum. I'm sorry to say that there is no activity on this aspect. We are not trying to control the violence. but we are trying to blame whose blame is more true or more better. That is why this continuing violence is happening.
Okay, Mr. Tombing?
Mera Paibi, when we use this term, there is a soft and very catchy phrase that is also used, that they constitute the imas. And then when you translate ima, there's an understanding that they are all mothers. So when you see from a maternalistic connotation of the word ima and then using it parallel with Mera Paibi, usually the understanding is that the maternalistic instinct of nourishment, protection of children is at the forefront. Now, the Meitei Kukis have been living together for a long time, and then they do learn from one another. And the Kuki communities might have also learned from the Meitei Mera Paibi communities that our maternalistic instinct is to protect, nourish our community and our people. So, why would they interfere? One part could be that there's a fear that bunkers are being destroyed, and therefore that might make their communities vulnerable. But then the larger context of the Mera Paibi is that it is an embodiment of multiple personalities. One personality could be the maternalistic personality, which is kind, which is compassionate, which is loving, which is forgiving, and which works for the nourishment of the community, the culture, and then the society at large. Now, another part of the embodiment of personality could be belligerent, vicious, and very vindictive also. Now, this question has been asked for multiple times, that why the Mera Paibi would indulge in certain anti-state activities, thereby creating hindrances with regard to the movement of security forces, and thereby leading to more violence. Now, when you break it down, maybe the belligerent or maybe the vicious personality gets expressed, and like our colonel has said, that they may not necessarily, in fact, reflect the general aspirations of whoever were imas in the Meitei context of it. But then when you break it down from a vicious, belligerent personality aspect of it, maybe there you may find your answer, that since there is another personality aspect of it, which is quite belligerent and which is quite vicious and has an idea of a targeted enemy, and there maybe the answer to this big question of why being an ima they end up being so vicious, there you might be able to find the answer.
Okay.
With regard to the, I would like to say that the maternalistic instinct usually come at the forefront, and they think that if they indulge in such kind of an activity, maybe they are protecting and nourishing their community people.
Okay. One more thing, the couple of developments which are also taking place in the parliament, will come to that. There are a couple of bites, because you know there is a fight in the parliament which is taking place. Manipur pe discussion kis rule pe ho? The government is saying 267 pe hona chahiye. The government is saying 267 pe nahi hona chahiye. Opposition saying that this discussion should take place, in a different provision. So discussion is not happening. But then there are a lot of important sound bites for parliament have come. Let me just play them out. So opposition parties are insisting on a discussion under Rule 267 instead. This is the latest from Manipur. Now the issue is Piyush Goyal has states the centre ready for discussion under Rule 176 on Manipur violence. So so opposition says 267 and the government is saying 176. मैं उल्टा बोल गया. The government is saying 176, opposition is saying 267. बात यहाँ फंसी हुई. That's where the whole damn thing is stuck. Discussion हो तो कैसे हो? Let's listen to these sound bites.
जो उधर हुआ है उसके चर्चा सदन में होना चाहिए. तो सदन में हम चर्चा करने के लिए जब तैयार है, जब सदन चल रहा है, तो बाहर जाके ऐसे स्टेटमेंट तो देख क्या है ना, जो बोलना है सदन में बोलने दो, जो उसको उस विषय पर जो उत्तर देना है, रिप्लाई देना है, चर्चा करना है, वो सब के लिए सरकार तैयार है. ये बार बार हम इन लोगों को रिक्वेस्ट कर रहे हैं, अपील कर रहे हैं. तो अगर इसमें ये संवेदनशील मामला है, इसमें पॉलिटिक्स करना बंद करना चाहिए.
पहले दिन से ही हम कह रहे हैं कि भाई आप इस संबंध में डिमांड किया है, उन्होंने कहा इस पे चर्चा होनी चाहिए. हमने स्वीकार कर ली तो उन्होंने पैतरा बदला कि प्रधानमंत्री जी को आकर के जवाब देना चाहिए। अब ये ऐसे मसले पे भी विपक्ष की जिम्मेदारी होती है कि मसला शांतिपूर्ण समाधान की ओर बढ़े। ऐसे मसले पे भी वो राजनीति कर रहे हैं। ऐसे मसले पे तो राजनीति नहीं करनी चाहिए। राजनीति के बहुत अवसर हैं जी, और आप चर्चा के लिए हम तैयार हैं। हमने कहा आप 1 दिन चर्चा करो, 2 दिन चर्चा करो। हमारे गृह मंत्री जी ने सदन में कहा लोकसभा में कि हम चर्चा करने के लिए तैयार हैं, आप टाइम तय करो, लेकिन उन्होंने तो जिद पकड़ रखी है। अब नो कॉन्फिडेंस मोशन और ले आए, तो उसके लिए भी स्पीकर साहब जब टाइम देंगे तब हम भी चर्चा के लिए तैयार हैं।
So, I can only say that I hope that 267 and 176, these two issues are resolved. Very warm welcome to you, Bhaumik ji. Dada, how are you?
I'm fine.
Welcome to our new studio. It's much better than the previous one. It's much bigger, better lights.
I hope the discussion gets better.
Oh, आप है तो discussion तो अच्छा ही होगा.
Have an access of delivery vehicles.
आप है तो
Ashwar, good morning.
आप है तो discussion अच्छा होगा. Dada, first your comments on this Supreme Court.
Less in form, more in substance.
Okay.
So let's get started.
Yes. So the Supreme Court has shunted away a PIL, saying that if this is the way we are going to take a PIL, which was saying that let's take a PIL on deforestation, narco-terrorism, this and that, highway blockage. So the Chief Justice of India said, boss, this is like branding a community as a terrorist community. Your first comment on it? They said we can't take the PIL.
The Supreme Court has done the right thing. They have tried to stop 2 things. One is fake narrative, the second is hate speech. There is an attempt to talk about narco-terrorism. What the hell does narco-terrorism mean? Are they trying to say that the narcotics drug lords, the Burmese drug lords, are backing some particular terror group? Which are the terror groups which operate out of Myanmar? It's a making insurgent groups. I won't call them terror groups, but they're insurgents. The PLA and KYK, they are people who operate from Myanmar. The kuki groups have been in SOO, suspension of operation, mode, and they have been inside Manipur. The narco-terrorism. You know what? This big thing about poppy cultivation. Poppy cultivation is a problem for the future. If the acreage under poppy increases in Manipur, Burmese drug lords who have primarily promoted it would be inclined to move their processing factories in Manipur because India is the big market, and that's a real big problem for the future. But at the moment, the problem is less poppy cultivation, is more the contraband organized drug trafficking from Manipur, or from Myanmar into Manipur, then through Assam and Tripura, partly into Bangladesh, partly into the rest of India. And I'm aware of these drug routes. I know the Burmese drug lords who are involved in it. I also know, I can't name them here. I don't want to get your channel into trouble. There are very powerful forces, like Chua said, organized drug trafficking without political and administrative patronage and support is never possible. Never possible. There was, a couple of months back, this Manipur police officer, Tanajam Brinda, raided a very important person, a very close relative of a very heavyweight political person. She landed in a situation that she had to leave her job because she tried to book this guy. There's a huge quota of amphetamine seized from his house, but he could not be booked because he's related. He's, very close to a very heavyweight politician. And there are similar heavyweight political elements involved in this train in Assam, in Tripura. I've seen the BSF intelligence report. The brother of a very important BJP leader is involved in this. Now the point here is, what about these things? And most of what about the Itocha drug cartel? They're not cookies. So there is this whole narco-terrorism, poppy cultivation narrative. The target has been a particular community. The idea has been to put them under pressure, clear the tribal lands, so that other corporate and business interests from the valley, from the rest of the country can penetrate the hills and set up business here. But the problem is, I admit that if acreage under poppy goes up in Manipur, the Burmese drug lords will move their processing factories here. One Burmese network even came up to Calcutta. Our network, they could get on rent the residence of Upen Vishwas. Now, Upenda is a very, proper police person. He's not corrupt. He booked Lalu Prasad, if you remember, the Chara Ghotala thing. So Upenda could have made a lot of money, Upen Vishwas, if he wanted to, in Bihar. He did. But he was given reference by the Mizoram house, so he rented his place to these guys. Then the Narcotics Control Bureau raided the place. The Ahwa network people, they fled via Shillong. But they had come as far as Calcutta because these networks are trying to set up processing units within India so that the large Indian market for, narcotics drugs can be sort of, sustained. And they're increasingly trying to move out of Myanmar, where accessing their poppy fields there has become difficult because of the civil war condition. Now, this whole cheap narrative that some IT cells of some parties have floated and backed by, some newly created, IT groups in Manipur, this is all bum-com. And I know I've followed this Burmese Manipur drug trade since 1988. When I identified the leading drug trafficker of Manipur, he had got permits for acetic anhydride, the processing chemicals, which he then sent to Myanmar and got processed drugs in return. And he got this acetic anhydride, which you and I can't get, by saying that he's setting up a pharmaceutical industry there, which is all bum-cum. So I followed this drug trade, and I don't need to get it from these jokers who are putting out stories about narco-terrorism and all that stuff. And the Supreme Court has done a very good thing by sticking to facts, sticking to law, and that's what it should be. Facts, not bias. So this whole PIL has fallen through. The purpose of the PIL is well known. It was to brand a certain community and then justify the harsh measures against that community that the state government, the state police has been taking. Now, won't you like to find, would somebody in Manipur, some good soul, file a PIL asking the police to recover all these weapons that they themselves have given out? What kind of governance are we talking about? It's like Marx had said, the state has withered away. I don't want to bring up Marx because I'm a Bengali, I will be branded as a Bengali leftist, which I am not. But Karl Marx has said, the state has withered away. The state has withered away or is withering away in Manipur. So long as these 4,000 odd rifles are out in the hands of troublemakers and the state has to beg these people to return them, setting up drop boxes, which is again a drama, like the tearing of the resignation letter of the chief minister. These are all brilliantly enacted drama to create a narrative. And this whole, transnational migration. What transnational migration? I just did a major seminar in Calcutta on migration. And I studied this subject. The Chins who come are ethnic cousins of Kukis and, Mizos. When they flee, they're not illegal migrants, they're refugees. They're fleeing persecution. Like the Tamil refugees down south, when the civil war was on in Jaffna Peninsula, or the Bangladesh refugees in 1971, these Chin refugees have been coming into Manipur and Mizoram since, unrest started in Myanmar with the 1988 movement. And periodical eruption of public agitation followed by huge military crackdown forces these people. So they are refugees.
Okay.
Though India has not signed the 1951 Refugee Convention, India, as an aspirant of Security Council position, cannot overlook the humanitarian considerations and not give shelter to these refugees who have serious fear of life and limb. So that's the union. You grant them as illegal migrants. Everybody is an illegal migrant. So because his grandfather was born in Bangladesh. What nonsense is going on?
No, absolutely right, Dada.
Narco-terrorism, these are all fake narratives promoted with political purposes. I seriously challenge them, and I can provide all kinds of details to counter these narratives.
Okay, okay. Let me play out the bite of the sports person, so you understand how common people are suffering in Manipur. Let us play that bite out, how common people are suffering in Manipur. Let's play that long segment of that sports person, that footballer, Mr. Konsum.
I was surprised, like what might have happened. So when I called back after the match got over, I got my phone, I called back, and I was really worried what happened. And then I heard my mom crying over the phone. She was saying that they were burning houses, there were gunshots, there were attacks, and which I was really worried and scared. I thought maybe I would lose all of them. I'm talking to them for the last time. I don't know how to express that feeling. It was really scary because as I said, I thought I would lose all of them, and I was speaking to them for the last time. And I told my mom, please do not hang up the call, please be on the line. Yeah, that's how it happened on the third night. And I was to fly on the fourth back to Hyderabad after we played the match. And I stayed the entire night awake and was speaking to my mom over the phone. And fortunately, they escaped the Indian Army. They evacuated them from Churchandpur. They provided trucks, buses and jeeps to evacuate them from there. And then that's how they went to the relief camp in Moyang. And then from there on, then I heard the news of our house being destroyed, burned and being torched. And then after a few hours, again, the football turf that I built in the locality in Churchandpur, Tuibong, is being burned, destroyed as well. So I got this information, and it was really heartbreaking and sad because I had a big dream of, providing a platform to the youngsters coming up in Churchandpur. They were really talented, but they couldn't afford a football school. So my dream, my plan was to provide them a platform where they can become a professional player, and then they can go on and play for the national team, and then become a great player for the country and help their family as well. Because as you know now, football, once they become a professional, they can help their family and people around them, their life changes. So that was my plan, but then this incident happened and everything got destroyed and everything being robbed, taken away. Fortunately, I would say my parents, my family, everyone escaped alive, and that's, it's God's plan, I would say, that they're alive, and I'm happy about that. But everything that we ever earned and ever had is being all taken away. Now we have to again, as a family, regroup, build the strength, and then restart again. Yeah, that's pretty much what's at the moment. And what's unfortunate is we still have no clue when we can return back home. Well, there is no home. That's what I heard from a few friends that I have back there in Churchandpur. They told me that our house is being destroyed, broken down, and so as the football turf as well. And so there is no place called home for me to go back. But I hope we can rebuild and restart again once the government gives us a green signal. I would say that we are safe to go there, we are safe to start a new life, because like us, there are many families who are stranded elsewhere in relief camps and many other places in Manipur who are finding it hard to survive as well. So it's getting tougher each day. So I hope the solution is there. The concerned people who are to look after us and to protect us and to give us the shelter and for us to build our future on, to decide. And so we can't plan anything at the moment, and it's really sad to see my family suffering. That's one of the reasons I couldn't go play for the national team.
And let's take the bite of the governor of Manipur. Let's see what she has to say.
ये चूराचांद डिस्ट्रिक्ट में ये दूसरा विजिट है मेरा, और मैंने पिछले बार भी कैंपों में जाकर और जो भी देखा, लोगों से मिली, उनकी जो भी तकलीफ थी, दर्द, उनका दुख था, मैंने उनकी सारी चीज़ों की बात सुनी, और जो कुछ भी था मैंने कोशिश किया इनकी जो भी मूलभूत जो वर्तमान में उनकी आवश्यकता की चीज़ें थी वो मैंने जाकर और शासन को निर्देश दिया था और वो उसमें काफ़ी कुछ इनकी सुविधाएं इनको प्राप्त हुई है। जो दिनचर्या की चीज़ों का जो था, पहले तो केवल भोजन ही मिलता था, लेकिन साथ साथ उनके जो चाहे वो उनका कपड़े हैं, उसके साथ साथ साबुन है, सौंफ है, ब्रश है, ये तमाम जो चीज़ें थी और ये सारी चीज़ों को भी निर्देश दिया था, हाइजीन किट से लेकर और मच्छरदानी और बेड और चादर, ये भी एक ज़रूरी था ना कि केवल खाना ही सब कुछ नहीं था। तो ये सारी चीज़ों को सरकार यहाँ प्रशासन धीरे धीरे कर रहा है, लेकिन कुछ चीज़ें अभी भी यहाँ आपूर्ति का अभाव है क्योंकि यहाँ पर सामान नहीं आ रहा है, हाईवे बंद है और वहाँ के साथ साथ कई जगह पे जाम लगा हुआ, रोक लिया, यहाँ सामान नहीं आ पा रहा है। लेकिन कोशिश कर रहे हैं कि धीरे धीरे बहुत दूर से मिजोरम की तरफ से भी सामान, मगर फिर भी अपने तरफ से मेडिसिन की बहुत तकलीफ है। मैंने स्वयं मेडिसिन लेकर आई हूँ, मैं भी हेलीकॉप्टर से भी मैंने भिजवाया है। मुझे ऐसा लगता है कि जो भी राजनीतिक देश के अंदर जितने भी दल हैं, मैं उनसे भी ये अपील करना चाहती हूँ कि वर्तमान में जो हमारे मणिपुर प्रदेश में जो सिचुएशन है, जिस तरह का वायलेंस हुआ है, हजारों की संख्या में लोग कैंपों में रह रहे हैं, अगर वो आकर उनके दर्दों को बांट सके तो बहुत अच्छी बात है। और मैं चाहूँगी कि चाहे प्रदेश सरकार हो या केंद्र सरकार और पूरे राजनीतिक दल एक साथ मिलकर अगर इस प्रदेश में शांति लाने की पहल करें तो मैं उन्हें बहुत धन्यवाद और उनकी आभारी रहूँगी।
Suhaji, your first comment on the Consum interview, what he said.
Well, I think he had a much broader approach than the BJP leadership at the center. And so, I mean, in a way, it's a welcome change. But it does not change the ground situation. The ground situation at this moment is that Indian army can be stopped by the Mera Babies or it can be stopped by any other groups. And we have seen that. Now, if it's a country, then it's the government which should be in charge of the administration. How could you have a situation where the Indian army could be prevented by the civilians where to go and where not to go? It basically shows that the state itself doesn't exist. It has collapsed completely. It is not different from Somalia. And I repeat that again. The situation in Manipur, despite the presence of thousands of troops, it is like Somalia or worse than that. Because in Somalia, you are not having this kind of killings. So when the state allows non-state actors to take control of the governance, then it basically means that the state no longer exists. And that is what the serious concern is about. How could you have a situation that is a small state, which is Manipur, and you are supposed to have the fourth largest army in the world, and you cannot create a situation where, you know, the basics humanitarian supplies cannot be transported. So it's a huge humanitarian crisis. And imagine a situation where this kind of humanitarian crisis takes place outside India or internationally, and International Committee of the Red Cross is not being allowed to transport humanitarian materials. That is exactly the situation in Manipur, and the government of India is behaving in such a manner as if, because there are no killings on a day-to-day basis, situation is limping back to normalcy. You know, it's, I mean, you know, no government worth the salt could accept the situation. So that's why if when you look at the speech of the governor, though it's very broad in terms of accepting the role of the opposition parties, here you have a governor who has failed. I mean, why would the governor have to, you know, carry medicines or send medicine herself? It basically shows that you do not know what are your powers. The governor is head of the state, and the governor under the Article 371 of the Constitution is supposed to prepare an annual report or whenever the situation requires about the situation in the hills, etc. Because that is what the Constitution provides. And you yourself should be reporting to the Home Ministry saying that this is the situation, the government doesn't exist, it has collapsed, and these are the measures to be taken. So the governor, I would say, is as helpless as me and Subirda or anybody else. You know, if that is the attitude of the governor, you can imagine. So that is why I think the whole country is being taken for a ride, that there is no governor, there is no government, there is no chief minister, and the writ of these authorities do not run beyond the official, beyond their own office. The government does not exist in Manipur. And it's a shame for a big country, or a country which is trying to be the member of the Security Council, or trying to claim one of the big largest economies in the world. Look, you cannot restore security, law and order at the hands of the security forces. That's the bottom line, that the government doesn't exist. So there is nothing to defend. I don't think the government can defend whether it's rule number 167 or 176 or 267. It doesn't matter. You do not exist as far as Manipur is concerned, and if the security forces are prevented today either by the meitei groups or the kuki groups, you are emboldening them, you are encouraging them. So a situation has arisen today where meiteis believe that they will not give an inch to the kukis, because Indian army for the first time they have realized that Indian army cannot do anything, and even insurgents caught with arms can be snatched away. So a section of the meiteis believe that Indian state has already succumbed. The same goes for the meiteis. That is not something which is good for this country.
Dada, you said this long time back. आपने word इस्तेमाल किया था, I recall it. Then you said, well, मैंने बहुत emotionally बोल दिया, डंडे का इस्तेमाल करना चाहिए, so that people riot act should be read. I think that's what you meant, na? That riot act has not been read. The people who have taken away the arms in their own hand. If I recall that conversation with you, which I had a month ago.
Yeah, what I have said a month or 1.5 months ago has all played out. And all these theories, fake narratives, and bum-cum stories that have been carried here and there over the media have all been proved wrong, for the very simple reason that they were not either reflective of ground realities or were deliberately fed with some intent. The point here that Suvash makes is very important, and which I repeatedly say, and at the risk of being branded a leftist and quoting Marx, state has withered away. The point here is that Indian army was deployed, but till today it don't have a unified command. There was this big drama about the resignation of chief minister. Even the BJP has thrown out chief ministers who have caused much less controversy, much less damage to party image. But Virenji is still there. No, I am neither for Viren or anti-Viren, but I can say with reasonable authority that the government has failed, and the person who has to take overall responsibility is the chief minister. And therefore, if he believed in the tradition of Indian politics, but people like Rao Bahadur Shastri as railway minister submitted resignation after 2 or 3 railway accidents, that's a fading brief though, then Virenji should have resigned. But there was this big drama that these very troublemakers who got weapons from the police actually came there, and they were involved in this drama of tearing up his resignation. So we exactly know the linkages, we know who is involved in what kind of drama there and who has what kind of interest in this playing. There are 3 things, Kartikeya. Is the centre going to tolerate this whole thing going down? I am not for unrestrained and unimaginative use of the danda. I believe in Chanakya, Sham, Ram, Danda and Bhed. So danda is one of the 4 elements of handling crisis, tackling enemies and that kind of stuff. But at the moment, the way things have shaped up in Manipur, a very strong action is required, and you cannot have strong action unless you have a structure in place. Where is the unified command, sir? Why is it not put in place? This is a double engine government, all these beautiful phrases coined to justify, make a tiger out of a fox or a jackal, These all smartly crafted narratives are all falling apart, sir. We now know that the government, the person projected as lion or tiger is actually a jackal and a fox. Wily, cunning, knows how to stay in power, but failing in his duty as government. And here, apart from the unified command, it's also required simultaneously to start a dialogue. Day one, we have been saying this. One or two meetings initiated by the Home Minister, now nobody talks about that. So where is this, dialogue going to happen? And how are you going to tackle the increasingly hardline tribal attitude, kuki attitude, that why we have no future in Manipur, humko alag hona hai. And of course, the sort of greater Mizoram starrings in Mizoram. But people think, oh, well, you can't protect our Kuki brothers, ask them to join us in Mizoram. And this has significance elsewhere because like the Kuki Zomi Mizo group, Chin, the Nagas are also a trans-border, trans-regional tribe, straddling several state boundaries and two national boundaries are the boundaries between India and Myanmar. These are serious implications in policy. But आप किसको समझाओ? दिल्ली सब जानता है यार हम लोग बेवकूफ हैं या चिल्ला रहे बैठ के आपके स्टूडियो में आपने थोड़ा मौका दे दिया हमने थोड़ा चिल्ला लिया पर दिल्ली हैज इट्स ओन क्या
लेकिन दादा एक चीज तो मानेंगे द फर्स्ट टाइम आई मेट यू वाज इन दिस स्टूडियो व्हिच लुक्स डिफरेंट we redid the studio, then we went to a smaller studio and I said this Dada that I'm not letting this story go. Whether 150 people are watching me or whether 1,150 people are watching me, whether it's 3,350 people are watching me per second, I will do this story from Northeast till I can. And we have our whole News9 team has done it, Dada.
No, you have practiced. You have actually put me on the street and helped me connect to friends who I lost 50 years ago. One of my school guys, wrote me a mail today that Dada, I've seen you here, yes, I, did my engineering from NIT Trichy and then joined the Indian Navy and then joined as MD Hindustan Shipyard. Great to connect to you. I got your, email from the guys in TV9 because after I saw you in TV, तो यार आपने हमारा तो अच्छा कर दिया कि बहुत सारे पुराने फ्रेंड से हम कनेक्ट हो गए कुछ लोग दिल्ली में भी जो सीरियस डिसीजन मेकिंग में है वो लोग भी सुने हैं कहते दादा यू हैव सेड द राइट थिंग बट यार these people don't count unless the emperor is pleased to respond to this crisis and understand what you are trying to say unless the emperor does something यार हम लोग तो
आपने नॉम चॉम्स्की वाली बात बोल दी दादा you said something which I recall of Noam Chomsky. There was a book he wrote on manufacturing dissent and he said in a foreign policy if there is a street
manufacturing consent
manufacturing consent if there is a street protest taking place or a foreign policy issue he argues that anyway people who are behind those thick walls know what decision they have taken wrong or right this protest on the street will make no difference.
And always follow the money. My former boss in legendary journalist, conflict journalist Alexander Thompson used to say, follow the money, you have the story. See, who is putting the money behind these crowds which gathered in front of the chief minister's office and tore up his resignation? Who are these guys who went to the police station and got all these pistols and rifles? Who is financing them? पैसा कौन दे रहा है इनको? Who has put together a mob and turned it into an organized mob first and then into some kind of a quasi-political force. Singal. किसने किया? हमको पता है. The point here, Kartikeya, is very simple. Everything is known now. India, whatever people may say, we are not China, we are not Pakistan, we are even better than America. Finally, we still have in place systems and structures of democracy by which people will get to know the truth. And all these IT self-help can fool nobody. But here the trouble is, decision to hum log nahi lete hai na. Janta does not take decision. Janta elects people who go to parliament, who then form ministries, they take decisions. But if the Janta Dwara elected people behave like the old emperors of old, कि उन्होंने सोचा, उन्होंने कहा, फिर काम होगा, नहीं तो नहीं होगा, तो हम यहाँ पिटाई होगा, आग लगेगा घरों में, लोग रोते रहेंगे रिफ्यूजी कैंप में, और हम यहाँ टीवी स्टेशन में चिल्लाते रहेंगे, नो इफेक्ट सर। राजा जी को समझाइए, महाराज को समझाइए, ये तो कुछ नहीं होने वाला है। और ये 2-2.5 महीना मणिपुर में 150 लोगों के मौत, हजारों के तादाद में घर जलने के बाद कि हमको एहसास हुआ है कि राजतंत्र वापस आ रहा है और हमें उसे स्वागत करना चाहिए। अब मैं नाटक नहीं कर रहा हूं, कर लेता हूं, अच्छा बंगाली हूं ना, थिएटर वेटर अच्छा कर लेता हूं, बस चक्कर ये है कि मैं सही दिल का बात कह रहा हूं आपको कि यार ये लोकतंत्र फिर से अगर राजतंत्र के तरफ जाते नजर आ रहे हैं, जब तक राजनीति को एहसास नहीं होगा तो मुल्क में कुछ नहीं होगा। हम आप स्टूडियो में बैठ के चिल्लाएंगे, पुराने दिनों में जैसे ढोल बजा के लोगों को अलर्ट किया जाता था कि ये हो रहा है वो हो रहा है, हम लोग यहाँ चिल्लाएंगे। सुहास जी कुछ बोलेंगे तो कह देंगे साहब ये इंटरनेशनल है बिकॉज ही लुक्स अ बिट चाइनीज और आई डोंट नो व्हाई। ये रेशियल फैक्टर भी है ना कि ये यार पता नहीं चीन का एजेंट बना देगा, मुझको बांग्लादेश का एजेंट बना देगा, कुछ बना देगा, कुछ भी कुछ बना देगा। और झूठ बोलने का तो एक स्टेट ऑफ आर्ट टेक्नोलॉजी हम सामने देखते हैं ना, ये नैरेटिव, हाउ व्हाट्सएप ग्रुप्स एंड ऑल दिस आईटी सेल्स, दे वर ब्रिलियंट, दे डू देयर जॉब। महाराज को तख्त के तौर पर रखना है तो ये लोग सफल है, ये सब करके लोगों को उल्टा सीधा। बट चक्कर ये कार्तिक, as you rightly said, this is Shekhar Gupta wrote it when he wrote a brilliant, sort of partially personal memoirs kind of a thing on Northeast when he left the place. And he said, when this Assam riots happening and we were PIL riders, we traveled. He said, this is a part of my country which is burning, yaar. This is not Assam which is burning. If you have any feeling of India as a nation state, I believe it's a civilization state, but, तर्क में नहीं जाता हूं. If you believe, you feel proud as an Indian. असम जल रहा है, मणिपुर जल रहा है, साहब आपका घर जल रहा है जनाब, थोड़ा तो रहम कीजिए,
सुहास जी
एक्शन लीजिए।
नहीं बिल्कुल सही बात सुहास, आपने पते की बात बोली दादा, पते की बात बोली सुहास जी।
Yes, please.
दादा made a very, it's a very pointed thing, राजतंत्र और लोकतंत्र। राजतंत्र, did you hear him say Rajtantra and Loktantra? He said it very pointedly. He actually, in a way, he spoke in Hindi and elucidated the position of what's happening in Manipur.
यार हिंदी नहीं बोलूंगा तो मुल्क से निकाल देंगे यार।
नहीं ऐसा नहीं है, it's a multilingual society. No, it's not like that. It's multilingual. But Dada, before I go to Mr. Chakma, there's one thing which I want to ask. I was reading a book during weekend, and I had asked this to my previous colleague. This dislocation of people, it's not that it has happened for the first time in Northeast. Suhasji spoke about Bru dislocation. I was reading a chapter on Mizoram. Indian Army reorganized entire villages in Mizoram after 67-68 to combat Lal Denga. So this mayhem of dislocating people is a very sordid saga in Northeast.
Absolutely. But Suhas,
Suhasji, so it's not a...
No. Is he on the line?
Yes, he's on the line. He's on the line.
Yes. No, I think the only difference this time in Manipur is nowhere in India, including the Northeast, the government had sponsored the transfer of population from one side to another side. We have all seen the conflicts in Assam, ethnic conflicts in Mizoram, between Meghalaya and Assam borders. We have seen in Arunachal Pradesh, etc. But nowhere ever the government took the measures where they transferred population from one side to the other. And I think the biggest mistake which Mizoram government did, with the knowledge of the emperor, as the Subira says, that you have completed separation. So there are no cookies in the valley and there are no meiteis in the hills. So this separation will have such significant effect because, as I had mentioned, once people go away from their lands, it is very difficult to come back. So the Kashmiri Pandits, with all the efforts of the government of India, all the finances of the government of India, have not been able to go back to Kashmir. Then we have the Brus who had fled from Mizoram on their own. Then they could not go back and finally they had to be settled in Tripura after a gap of 23 years. Now you, as a state authority, instead of establishing the authority of the state, you yourself had actually completed the separation of the population, and I do not see in the near future the cookies coming back to the meitei areas and meiteis going back to the kuki areas, and cookies have a substantial proportion of officials serving in the state administration because they have done academically very well as a community. So all those kuki officials cannot join the service with the state government because there were incidents, even the MLS being beaten to death or being beaten to pulp, and there is no way a kuki officer will feel the courage or will have the courage to go back to the secretariat of the state government. So first problem which Mizoram is facing, Manipur is facing, even if you are going to establish the normalcy, it is operating below level at this point of time because the cookies will not come back. So are you going to displace the cookie officials who cannot come to the state secretariat? So you have to continuously pay them salaries just the way you pay the Kashmiri Pandits in Kashmir since the time they have been, displaced. So what kind of administration you have created and what kind of failed state you have created? So in one hand, they might have been able to create a situation where the chief minister survives, whether it will bring political benefits by the time state assembly elections takes place after, in 2023, 24 or 25, something, I forgot the exact year. Whether it brings political benefit to the BJP is a different issue. But what remains on the ground is that the population has been transferred, separation is complete, the secretariat, the bureaucrats are not going to go back, meitei officials shall not be able to serve, including the police in the hills for a long period of time. Then you have effectively divided Manipur between the hills and the valley, and the problem here is for the Manipur government, the cookies are in between the Nagas and the Meiteis. So when the national highway is blocked by the cookies, obviously Nagas are affected too. That might work as a leverage at some point of time because cookies do not want to antagonize the Nagas. But please remember, you have separated the state, whether you like it or not. So Biren Singh might say that till last drop of blood in my vein, I shall not allow to Manipur disintegrate. But frankly, your action and inaction actually have created the space or the need for separate administration. Because please remember, there are 12 MLS from the Kuki community. And 12 MLS today they are with the BJP. If they go on the other side, they can very much create tremendous amount of pressure in the state assembly. So how do you force people who are
actually आपने बात सही की Mr. Suhas. Dada, he is right. By an administrative action, you have created a separate administration. You have created a buffer zone. I mean to say, people say ये तो आर्मी ने लिया, अरे आपने buffer zone बना के ही अलग कर दिया. Instead of getting them back, you have formalized the line.
No, this is a classic case. This Manipur crisis and the way it has unfolded is a classic case that what you do and create a situation to create something which you want to avoid. So you want to avoid separate administration in Manipur. You want to keep Manipur together. But by your very action, to win electoral support of the majority and to sustain electorally through majority support, to start behaving like a meitei hero and not like a Manipur chief minister, and in the process to create such a division of hearts and minds. In counter-insurgency, army guys are taught and we lecture them often how to win hearts and minds. When? WHAM. That's the critical thing. It's not the American, you go and beat the shit out of everybody. That doesn't work anywhere. In asymmetric warfare, that's why the Americans have lost every single asymmetric conflict since the Second World War, which was not an asymmetric but a straightforward war. So here in India, we try to sort of educate the army into executing WHAM, winning hearts and minds, civic action, this, that, connecting to the people, Gaon Buda Loko party lagao, all this stuff. Point is, in Manipur, the opposite has been done by the civil bureaucracy headed by the political executive. They don't want Manipur to disintegrate. It will be done over my dead body, says the chief minister. But by his very action, to reinforce his meitei support base, there were dissidents within the party.
Correct.
People are going and camping in Delhi. And then you start playing this meitei majoritarian card so that even Delhi cannot dare to remove you. So by your very action, you become a meitei hero, but you seem to be a Manipur chief minister. And as a result of your action, you create such a division of hearts and minds that you are actually creating the ground for separate administration, even as you are thumping your chest and shouting at the top of your voice, Manipur ko do tukra, teen tukra nahi hone dunga. It will have to happen over my dead body. So this is a classic case of the compulsions of electoral democracy, where BJP blames Congress for minority vote bank creation. This is also vote bank creation, sir. They're trying to consolidate a Hindutva-driven meitei vote bank and neglecting tribal issues and actually seeing the seed for the ultimate for the disintegration of Manipur. So exactly what you don't want, and you say publicly, we don't want disintegration of Manipur. By your action, you create a ground where you drive the state towards that kind of a prospect, down that kind of a road. And why? Because for you, electoral consideration staying in power is bigger than doing effective governance. चुनाव जीतते हैं. You ask any of these people, ये है वो है, नहीं साहब वो चुनाव कैसे जीते?
Okay.
अरे चुनाव जीतना और सरकार चलाना और रात गर्म करना.
No, that is, I completely, there have been number of articles also been written on this. This electoral democracy, election and run up to the Loks. Yes, absolutely. Suhaji, 30 seconds before I have to introduce the news.
No, just to complement what Subida had said, even you become a hero like Rajapakse, Mahinda Rajapakse, you defeat your arch enemy LTT, people's memory is very short.
Oh,
and that's
very
what
beautifully
I think
put.
Biren Singh is forgetting that fact, that if you become a meitei hero, he will be forgotten in 3 months' time. That's the reality. And
Okay, I think that's very beautiful. That's very beautifully put, Just for our viewers, Mahinda Rajapakse represented the largest Sinhala pride. His politics rested on Sinhala pride. It was less egalitarian in nature. It was less about the other communities in Sri Lanka. And what we witnessed in Sri Lanka was that the people took over. It completely paralyzed the political system. People went inside the president house. Mr. Rajapakse had to take a navy ship and disappear for 30 days. And because in Sri Lanka it is the responsibility of the security to take care of the president, and that sort of a politics completely crumbled. Half of his family is now out of politics. Before that, half of his immediate family were cabinet members. So I think that's a larger story we need to remember. And let us run those visuals. Full screen of governor. Full screen. Let's go full screen. Governor meeting children in the camps and trying to bring healing touch. Governor of Manipur trying to bring a healing touch. I hope Other lawmakers also do that publicly. And instead of going to, and the best example would be, sir, which Mahatma Gandhi did in his lifetime, don't go to your community, go to other people's community and serve them, and vice versa.
Gautam Adani, one of the richest men in the world, or a business honcho, accused of manipulating the market.
अदानी जी 609 नंबर से दूसरे नंबर तक कैसे पहुंचे? सिर्फ एक सवाल पूछा, नरेंद्र मोदी जी, आपका अदानी जी से रिश्ता क्या है?
He has given the space, the railways, the airport, which he has no experience also. So the country's interest has been compromised.
Government has been very clearly supporting few industrial groups, including Adani's industrial group.
Target Adani, streaming now.
We have promised that we will decarbonize our economy.
India will be leading this whole green hydrogen race.
I still believe that Indian road transportation, commercial, which governs your entire consumer price, can be run cheaper on green hydrogen versus fossil fuel as on date.
Green hydrogen is it's going to be a very major game changer. And in India, the kind of concerted effort that is being made to promote green hydrogen, you will see results very soon.
क्लाइमेट के क्षेत्र में क्वांटम जंप देने वाला है, वो है ग्रीन हाइड्रोजन का क्षेत्र। नेशनल हाइड्रोजन मिशन की घोषणा कर रहा हूं।
Hydrogen is a very energy dense fuel. It is also very light. It is a very green fuel for the simple reason the end product is water. It can be a game changer as India and the world try to mitigate the effects of climate change and global warming. There are many shades and flavors of hydrogen. If hydrogen is produced using renewable energy, then it is called green hydrogen.
Green hydrogen will help cut transportation costs, fuel and consumer goods prices.
One of the first things that you can affect with green hydrogen in India is your commercial transportation. I am of the opinion, and given the global disruptions of supply chains, etc., I still believe that Indian road transportation, commercial, which governs your entire consumer price, can be run cheaper on green hydrogen versus fossil fuel as on date.
Even you could say even aviation is another area, and international marine transport is another area.
Green hydrogen will also help cut fuel costs for your car.
That is an advancement in the vehicle technology, fuel cell based electric propulsion. Indian Oil is also working on this aspect of the hydrogen economy, closely with automobile sector.
First steps of a hydrogen economy for India have been set. There is a policy in place, but it's still going to take some time for the vehicles and the whole ecosystem around hydrogen to be developed. If all goes well, in the coming decade, we may see more hydrogen-powered vehicles on the road.
For overall pan-India scaling up, cost of green hydrogen will need to decrease. And we will also need sufficient number of charging stations.
Today, the cost of hydrogen is much higher. It's maybe green hydrogen is $6-7 per kilogram of hydrogen. But many people assume Reliance, for example, as a target of bringing down the cost to less than $1 per kilogram in 10 years, in a decade. But there are still some other sectors which we call hard to abate sectors, where reducing emissions from these sectors is very difficult. And these are, for example, steel. Steel uses up among 50-60 million tons of coking coal, out of which large part is imported by India. And it is possible to replace this coking coal through hydrogen by slightly changing the technology.
What you have to see is that these are new technologies like electric vehicle. But as you know,